Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ag Welding. Today we're going to be talking about arc welding, or more commonly known as stick welding. First thing we're going to look at is the tools and PPE you're going to need. First thing is your welder. Your welder on here, it has your amperage dial and your on-off switch. The amperage dial affects the amount of amps you're getting to your weld, and the on-off switch turns it on and off. Next thing up is your chipping hammer and your wire brush. Chipping hammer is used to chip the slag off of your weld, and the wire brush is used to clean up your weld after you chip the slag. Next is your electrode holder. This will hold your electrode while you're welding. This is what you'll be using to weld. And this is your electrode. It goes into the electrode holder like this, and then you weld like that. Here we have the ground clip, or ground clamp. This is what helps to create the current through your weld. This goes onto your table. Last but not least, we have your pliers or vice grips. These are used to pick up the hot metal after you're done welding, because you're not going to pick it up with your hands. Now onto PPE. PPE just stands for personal protective equipment that you have to wear while you're welding. First off, we have safety glasses. These are always needed, whether you're welding or not. You always need to have these on. We have welding jacket. This has sleeves, everything you need. Then you have an apron, which if you're wearing an apron, you need to either be wearing sleeves like this, or you need to have a shirt or a hoodie with sleeves. Then we have our gloves to protect your hands from sparks while you're welding, and to possibly pick up hot things if you need to for a short amount of times. Then we have the welding helmets. With these, there are two different types. There is passive and there is auto darkening. The passive, you cannot see anything through it until you start welding, and the auto dark, you can see through it before you start welding, and then it darkens once you start an arc. Next up for PPE is the fume hood. I don't have that out right now because it's in the booths, but that just sucks up all the fumes, so you're not breathing that in. All right, so the first weld we're going to be doing is a simple flat weld. But before we do any of that, we need to make sure that our fume hood is open and that our welder is off. We know the welder is off because the switch is down, and I know the fume hood is open because when I put my hand here, I can feel the suction. All right, so now we're going to be choosing the electrode that we're going to use. Here I have a 3/32 6013 rod. We're going to put this in the electrode holder, and we're going to set our amperage. I use a chart, and I would highly recommend that you keep a picture of the chart on your phone or near your welder.
So as I was saying, I'm using a 6013 3/32 rod, and my material thickness was about 2.5 inches or 1/4 of an inch. So I set my amperage to 145 because seeing as how thick my metal was, I needed a higher amperage to get good weld penetration.
Alright, so when I weld, I like to keep a nice wide base. I like to put my left arm on the table and my right hand in my left to guide that electrode across. Before I weld, I always do a few dry runs. I make sure my welder is off. I take it and I just pretend like I'm welding, like I'm gonna do when I am welding. Make sure I can get all the way across that piece, and then I'm not gonna run out of room to move. So when you do start an arc, you want to, I keep a piece of junk metal around, strike a few arcs on that to burn off the tip of that rod. This will make it easier to strike an arc, and it'll make your welder look better. Talking about striking an arc, when you do it, people will say that you want to strike it like a match. I don't think of it like that. I think that's a little counterproductive. I like to just do a short little drag across the metal to get that started up, and then I go little half circles across, and you want to keep your rod about 2 millimeters above. We do this little strike across here to keep your weld from sticking. And those little half circles are going to make a nice bead like that. I'm going to do a weld, and then I will come back and I'll show you what it's like. Alright, so now that we're done with our weld, we're gonna grab our pliers and we're gonna get a hold of this so that it stays where we want it. We're gonna take our chipping hammer and we're just gonna chip away at this weld. Contrary to the belief of my fellow students, you don't have to, bang on it. You can just chip it real nice. And then we can take our wire brush and we can just clean up around that weld. As you can see, my weld is the top one. I started off kind of good, got a little messy in the middle, and then finished off pretty well. If you want, I suggest you flip your weld over, and if you look right here, you have that discoloration. That means you had proper weld penetration. Now to end the video, there are many different types of welds that you will have to do. There's T-welds, there are butt welds, lap welds, and like we showed, flat welds. These are some of the most basic welds, and they will prepare you for pretty much anything that you're gonna have to do as a welder. On that note, we will end the video here. It was an honor to teach you the next generation of welding. Tell your folks I says hi, watch out for deer, and have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen.